His was an American success story. It was brilliant, ambitious, buttressed by faith and family. The world came to know Antonin Scalia as one of the most consequential jurists of the last half-century. A revealing new book about his early life was just released by one of our colleagues here at Newsmax. And here with us is the author of Scalia, Rise to Greatness, 1936 to 1986, Newsmax's chief White House correspondent and veteran journalist, James Rosen. James, great to have you on the show. This thing has some weight to it. It's it's a fantastic book, and we appreciate you being here. Scalia became this larger-than-life figure who helped really define modern conservatism. Your book focuses on his early years, and you're always interested. What was the sort of a foundational influence that helped forge such a consequential life?
Well, Tom, thanks very much for having me. And I would go even further and say that he not only defined a conservatism, but Justice Scalia shaped just about every area of American life as it's lived on a daily basis today because of the approach he took to the way law should be written, argued, and decided. Changed how lawyers did it and made it in some ways a more honest process. In terms of the foundational influences for Justice Scalia, in the book, Scalia, Rise to Greatness, which was out this week, you'll be able to see as never before his relationships with his parents, his immersion in the immigrant experience. His father was an Italian immigrant who came to this country with $400, didn't speak English, and made of himself a Romance languages professor. Scalia's mother was herself the child of Italian immigrants, became a school teacher. They were devout Catholics. And this book really explores Scalia's Catholic faith and its roots and his Jesuit education as he grew up in greater detail and intimacy than any other previous biography. And so from those three influences, the Catholic Church, his father, who was wary as a Romance languages professor of the distortions that translation and interpretation could bring to original sacred texts, and from the influence of his mother, the school teacher, Scalia emerged with a profound reverence for foundational texts, that the text was something that shouldn't be monkeyed with, and he carried this, of course, into his jurisprudence.
Yeah, and actually one of his sons went on to become a Catholic priest as well. In the book, you reveal the contents of some of the previously classified FBI background searches on him. You explore some of his early relationships with other jurists like Robert Bork and Ruth Bader Ginsburg. What's something that you have that you explore that hasn't quite been chronicled before?
So, for example, Scalia, Rise to Greatness is the first book about Justice Scalia to make use of a secret oral history that he conducted in his chambers at the Supreme Court in 1992, where he was interviewed by a woman who was an attorney that he had known since the Ford era. He looked back on his entire life. And it's very helpful in correcting a lot of inaccuracies in previous accounts. And it's really the most in-depth look at his own life that Justice Scalia ever took. And that became unsealed just recently. We have his FBI files, as you mentioned. And then you also mentioned Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Everyone knows about the celebrated RBG-Nino Scalia relationship, a model of civility amongst intellectual combatants that is all too rare in today's politics and law and society. This book, Scalia, Rise to Greatness, captures the beginning and the blossoming of this famous friendship when the two first met, which was not on the Supreme Court, but when both were serving as judges on one rung below the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. And the memos, notes, letters, correspondence, draft opinions, wisecracks flowing back and forth between RBG and Nino, I call them the RBG papers, really chronicle the birth of this instructive and very tender friendship.
Yeah, it is an amazing story, and it's one that doesn't get it's a rarity today. You actually spent some time with him as a journalist, and just give me 15 seconds. What was it like to be able to spend a little bit of time with him?
We had an amusing correspondence over a 2-year period. That will be excerpted in the second volume about the Supreme Court years. We had a pair of lunches where we had wine. He made me eat vegetables off of his plate. He drove me back to my office. He was just like an avuncular uncle, if you would. But, of course, you had to remember that you're in the presence of one of the great minds of our time. And Scalia, Rise to Greatness really tells the story of how he got to the Supreme Court. it ends with him taking a seat on the Supreme Court.
All right, and we'll be looking out for the next one. But this one is, the book is Scalia, Rise to Greatness, 1936 to 1986. James Rosen, congratulations, my friend. And
Thank you.
pick up a copy of the book today, folks. Thanks.